we're talking with our next guest about kids and good nutrition for our students. And it's hard to believe that summer is just rolling along and kids will be back in school before we know it. Spencer Taylor is our next guest. Good to see you, Spencer.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So with school around the corner, what exactly does your nutrition services department do?
Overall operations, purchasing, hires for our department, professional development and training for our employees, and most importantly, developing our menu and cooking all the food that we serve in all of our schools and metro schools.
And oh, how those menus have changed. I know since I was in school, I don't know about you, but for me, it's just, it's come a long way.
Sure,
a long way. So tell us how the menus are put together, how they're created, and what kind of guidelines metro schools follow.
Well, we take most of our insight from USDA, National School Lunch and National School Breakfast Program, in that those guidelines are what govern all programs around the country, in which there are certain requirements on proteins. We have to offer milk, the incorporation of fruits and vegetables. There are restrictions on calories per age group and serving sizes. So they're pretty much, so they give us the framework in order, and then we have to try to find creative ways to work within that framework to make our meals tasty and appealing to our students.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
A big challenge.
Yeah, appealing in a visual way,
right,
and something that they will consume. So why is it so important? I think, we know as adults it's important to start our day with a good breakfast, and I would think it would be even more critical for our children to start the day right with nutrition, and then to continue that process with the afternoon with the meal at lunch.
Yes.
Explain that to us,
Well,
why it's critical.
A lot of research is out there that shows that when kids are well fed, they're ready to learn. It's more disciplined environment, and just overall, kids don't have to think about that human nature aspect of hunger. And that's just not something that has to be a part of their day. If they're fed, whether they get to school or whether they're able to have a school breakfast at their school, it just further prepares them for the day.
And there are concrete findings, aren't there? There have been studies done that show that children are far more productive when their belly is full and full of good, nutritious food.
Lots of information out there to support that, and that kids they just tend to do better. And the research supports that. I mean, there's always an opposing view, but what we find that our kids are more satisfied when they either have access to breakfast or we provide access to breakfast.
Okay, so you do have breakfast for the kids?
We do.
Okay, and that's across all metro schools?
We offer breakfast at all of our metro schools.
Okay, I didn't realize that. What are some ideas for healthy snacks that the parents can get involved in preparing for their kids that they could take with them?
Well, I would say probably the easiest thing to provide that would be nutritious for kids would be fresh fruits and vegetables. And because you're talking about high nutritional value, low calorie, and there's hopefully enough variety out there to where parents can find a fruit or vegetable that their child prefers or likes over the others. I know sometimes that these can be a picky point with students.
It can be tricky to navigate those fruits and vegetables.
It can be very tricky. It can be very tricky. But so there may have to be a lot of testing in that category. I mean, of course, there are some other low-calorie snacks. There are nuts and things like that also have a higher nutritional value. But we do understand that our parents come from different backgrounds, and parents have to do their best as they determine for their children.
It can be tough because it's so much easier to grab prepackaged foods a lot of times.
It can be.
And those tend to have oftentimes more sugar or more salt, right?
That is
higher
correct.
Sodium.
Absolutely.
So you would prefer, obviously, the fruits and vegetables. Okay, so do you have some tips, I'm sure you do, on how to get the kids to eat these fruits and vegetables without totally disguising them?
As a parent or as a professional?
Well, both. Okay, as a professional.
Well, they kind of intertwine, because I'm a parent myself, and what I would say is that parents it has to be like a family commitment. It has to be mom and dad or a caregiver or guardian has to be all in and involved in that process so that children see modeling at home. And then once they see that modeling, I think that it's good to go grocery shopping. Kids come along to the grocery store, and we spend some time in the aisles that have the fresh stuff, the fresh bright colored things, fresh fruits and vegetables in this case. And as a family, make a decision to see what would you be interested in, what would you try. And I think that that's the best way to kind of get children involved in that process. I think as a professional in what we do, we have an obligation to provide these things and offer kids items, and we listen. There are sometimes since we are governed by our standards, there are some things that we won't be able to eliminate totally, but we have to offer fresh fruits and vegetables. And if we see that items are less favorable to kids, we try to incorporate other things. For example, other techniques. For example, we find that elementary kids don't do very well with whole fruits or items that have to be peeled, because little fingers are not as strong, not as dexterous, or you may have a child that maybe they're starting to lose their teeth. So we find that cutting them up into smaller pieces makes them easier to consume for them.
Just brought back a memory. My mother would always peel apples for us when we were little, cut up apples, and after school that's what we'd have. It was a great snack.
Sure.
It's a great memory, and it was very healthy, apple a day, right?
Right.
So what are some foods kids should stay away from completely?
Well, I'm kind of from a generation where of moderation, and so
instead of denying, it's like a diet.
Exactly,
like a bad word, right?
So what I would definitely say that, and I'd say this as a dietitian as well, is that there are high sugary snacks, refined sugars, highly processed items. There are some items that are going to be processed, but then you're going to have to become educated and start reading labels and determine how many calories are in there, how much fat, how much sugar, how much salt. So I won't bedevil all processed items, because they're not all created equal.
All right. Okay, we could talk on and on about this, but I appreciate a lot of these tips and insight from you, Spencer. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and we'll be back right after this.